Fear No Evil. Chapter 10. Epilogue. Izuku collapsed backward into his hospital bed, absolutely exhausted from several police interviews in a row. In between, Eddie and Rhodey had swung by to visit, bringing Rhodey's younger siblings Lala and Roro and a giant Tupperware full of spaghetti and meatballs. Eddie hadn't been bragging idly. He did make the best homemade spaghetti. The filling meal had been exactly what Izuku had needed after his ordeal. The painkillers had set in, so his arm hurt less, but he also felt sleepy. A knock came from the door. All Might called, "Can I come in?" Izuku sat up straight. "Of course." All Might entered, rubbing his hair tufts. He had a thick bandage on his left hand. Another cut peeked out from under his bangs. Bruises dotted the visible parts of his arms. "I'm sorry I couldn't be here sooner. I had to tie up some loose ends and remain out of sight since I'm not even supposed to be in this country. It's a tricky diplomatic situation, and I don't want to make it even worse." Whoa! All Might had broken the law to save him. Izuku felt a combination of joy and embarrassment. "I'm sorry you went to so much trouble just because I got kidnapped. You even got injured, too." It was a little unnerving to see his greatest hero look so battered. All Might beamed. "My boy, I'm so proud of you. Aizawa told me that you saved yourself before he even got there. You defeated Flecked Turn, destroyed Humarise's bombs, delivered a flash drive about their activities to crush the cult, rescued their other prisoners, and escaped their fortress. All this in your first week as the 9th One-for-All successor? I can't imagine what you're going to accomplish next." Izuku flushed all the way to the roots of his hair. "I could handle it. The cult didn't hurt people who they thought were quirkless." All Might's face turned grim. "Don't downplay what you went through. As someone who used to be their prisoner, I know exactly what they did." He sat down next to Izuku. "It must have been so hard. Do you want a hug?" "Yes," Izuku whispered, tears stinging his eyes. He threw his good arm around All Might. As All Might hugged him back, Izuku thought, "I got an All Might hug. Totally worth it." All Might probably wouldn't believe him, but he meant it. In a much further away hospital in Japan, Barros opened her eyes. The hospital room was small and simple, with a vase of flowers on the table. She'd been handcuffed to the bed's arm. A woman with mint green hair slept in the chair next to her. "Mom?" Barros whispered. Botan's eyes shot open. She threw her arms around her daughter. "My baby!" she cried through her tears. Toshinori finished typing his retirement speech, then emailed it to his publicist for editing. He leaned back in his chair and stretched his arms over his head. It was an excuse to pretend that his limbs hurt, not his heart. For a long time, his hero career had been the sole focus of his life. Perhaps more so than was healthy. He'd never once imagined quitting, not even after his body started to fail and he took injuries against villains who he once could have captured in his sleep. He'd planned to die on the job. But now that he needed to train young Midoriya, death was no longer an option. His early retirement had been forced by the thinly disguised blackmail email he'd received from the Hero Public Safety Commission president, detailing the list of crimes he'd committed in pursuit of his successor. She only knew half of them, and not the worst half, and then telling him what he would do in exchange for her efforts covering them up. She probably never expected that he'd retire in response. Until recently, he would have never even considered it either. After the commission had time to start panicking, Toshinori would contact them and volunteer to return on a part-time basis. In exchange, they would withdraw their threats against Naomasa Tsukauchi and Shota Aizawa's careers. Toshinori would promise to help them with emergencies whenever they were desperate, and not even take credit. The public would feel more reassured if it looked like the heroes were able to maintain peace without All Might. Perhaps a gradual fade would turn out better than if he'd kept going until he collapsed. Toshinori felt wetness. He touched his cheek, surprised to find a single tear. He shouldn't be crying already. He hadn't even quit his job yet. He would need to be serene and smiling when he delivered his retirement speech. His official reasons would be his age and to focus on his new teaching job at UA. He'd known what he'd been sacrificing back when he first decided to do whatever it took to rescue young Midoriya, and he had zero regrets. Well, Toshinori did regret that he hadn't finished off All for One during their battle at Humarise's fortress. He'd never wanted to leave that threat hanging over his successor. Hopefully All for One would crawl back into sight soon, and Toshinori would have another shot at him. In the meantime, Toshinori was content knowing that All for One was chasing after a completely inaccurate description of a blonde boy who he still believed to be captured by Humarise. Toshinori blew his nose and then returned his attention to his computer. He had another important email to read. At his request, Nezu had emailed Toshinori a report about Rodi's soul. Toshinori scanned it over quickly. Just as All for One had said, Rodi looked more like his other parent, Eddie's soul. Toshinori wondered if Rodi had been conceived using a quirk or if Eddie's soul was a trans man. However, he did not ask Nezu to investigate that. It was none of his business. According to Nezu's findings, All for One had been in Otheon around the time of Rodi's conception, but not since then. Rodi's younger brother and sister must be half-siblings. A small mercy that All for One hadn't reproduced 3 times. At first, Toshinori had winced to see that young Rodi was already involved in petty crime at such a young age. Perhaps someone needed to step in and guide him toward the right path. But as he read more, it became evident that Rodi had only started delivering illegal packages because he'd been living on the streets with 2 younger siblings to feed. The local orphanage had thrown them out because their father supposedly had Humarise connections. Toshinori made a mental note to investigate corruption there. The poor kid could hardly get a legal job at his age. Toshinori had nothing but sympathy for a child forced to work for dangerous criminals in order to keep his 2 younger siblings from starving to death. Why hadn't All for One looked after his own child? The villain could have easily paid for Rodi's living expenses with what he spent every month sending spam mail to Might Tower. Toshinori could think of 2 possibilities. 1. All for One hadn't known that Rodi was his son until fairly recently. Or 2. All for One didn't care about his own child except as a possession, and had only gotten upset when Humarise had taken something that belonged to him. The last one sounded disturbingly like the villain. But just in case, Toshinori would speak to Nezu about making arrangements to subtly protect Rodi. All for One had a history of kidnapping relatives, after all. There was a knock on the door. Toshinori closed his email before calling, "Come in." The local police had lent him this office to use while he put on a show of still looking for his successor, so that All for One didn't realize Izuku's true identity. Rodi's soul cleared his throat. "You asked to speak to me, sir? It's such an honor to meet Japan's #1 hero." The pink bird sitting on his shoulder hid her face and blushed. The boy had a bright, sincere smile. Clearly he must have taken after the soul side of the family. Lucky him. Toshinori fastened on his hero face. "I heard that you assisted in taking down Flecked Turn. I wanted to offer you my personal commendation." Rodi laughed. "I barely did anything. Izuku saved the day. You should direct your commendations at him. He's going to be a great hero someday. In fact, if you're looking for a kid to mentor, let me put you in his direction. He's crazy smart, figured out how to disable the nutty cultist's reflection quirk and destroy his bombs, too. He's fearless. And he even dragged my useless carcass out of that hellhole with him. I'd say he has all the right stuff to become the future #1, if the current #1 isn't offended." Pino puffed up her feathers and sneered as if to say it was true whether All Might was offended or not. There was one extremely easy route to Toshinori's heart, praising Izuku. He beamed. "How kind of you to say so. No, I'm not offended at all. I agree. Izuku Midoriya will become a great hero." "Can I quote you on that?" Rodi perked up. "I'm writing a book about how Izuku took down Humarise from the inside. With his permission, of course. He's been my primary source of information. If you'd be willing to let me interview you, it would be most helpful. Not only could you give me a new side to the story, an exclusive All Might interview would get publishers' attention." "I'd be happy to." Toshinori felt a stirring of excitement. A book about Izuku could be a great boost to his early hero career, if done correctly. Good publicity was very important for a young hero. "With one condition. Could you keep certain details about Izuku's quirk vague? This is for his protection." That makes sense, Rhodey said as his bird nodded. You don't want villains to have more information about his abilities than absolutely necessary. Yes, exactly, Toshinori said, thinking about one potato-headed villain in particular. Rhodey shrugged. I want to help Izuku, not cause him trouble. I'd be happy to run my book by your publicity team for approval first. That would be perfect, thank you. If you agree to do that, then I'll help promote your book. Toshinori was happy to have the excuse to use his resources in order to help Izuku's career. He could make it seem like he was advertising the book because of his interview. The bird cheered and leapt so hard her head hit the ceiling. Rhodey said, Thank you, sir. I'm honored. His calm tone couldn't hide the sparkle in his eyes. Toshinori said, You're also due a reward for your role in taking down Humarise. This was a bit of a polite fiction. The reward came from Toshinori's own pocket. Toshinori would happily pay a large sum in order to ensure that All for One's son never had any financial hardship to drive him toward a life of crime again. Toshinori took out a check and handed it over. The bird looked at the number of zeros on the check, then fainted dead away. Rhodey caught her as she fell. His hands shook. Sir, this is surely too much. I told you I didn't even do anything. Izuku should get the reward. He's already getting his own reward. When Toshinori had raised the topic, Izuku had asked to be paid in All Might merchandise. The Midoriya family was already very well off. Toshinori had worn out his hand autographing everything. He'd even dug up an old 10th anniversary poster that had made Izuku faint with joy. Then I'll happily accept. Though Rhodey tried to sound formal, his eyes welled up with tears. Thank you so much, sir. This should purchase my family home back and pay for my siblings' schooling. What a good kid, thinking of other people first. He definitely took after Eddie Soul's side of the family. Toshinori said, Surely there's enough money for you to buy something for yourself, too. Rhodey said, Nope, I'm putting the rest into savings. I'll study as hard as I can in order to catch up with school. Then I'll use this money to pay for my pilot school. It's always been my dream to become a pilot. Toshinori sat up straighter. Ah yes, a pilot. What a lovely dream. You should definitely become a pilot and not the head of Europe's underworld. Oops, that last part had slipped out. He must be more nervous than he'd realized. Rhodey stared at him, awkwardly. His bird laughed so hard that she nearly fell out of his hands. Slowly, Rhodey said, That was never an option. Seriously, I'm super weak. I prefer to run away, not fight. Toshinori laughed loudly. It was a joke, because, He had no good explanations. He blazed onward. I've met numerous pilots during my hero missions to Europe. I'd be happy to put you in contact with them so you can ask them some questions. I can also arrange for tours of local piloting schools and possibly a recommendation. Toshinori would be delighted to mentor this child in his entirely legal career goal so that Europe remained safe. Rhodey blushed. I don't know how to thank you enough, sir. I love the hair tufts. They make you look like a Greek god. Yes, Toshinori would definitely protect this sweet, innocent kid from any involvement with All for One. Would you like to interview me now? As soon as Izuku stepped through the airport gate, he was tackled by his mother. Despite her short height, she lifted him off his feet. Oh, Izuku, she sobbed, flooding the ground with her tears. Nearby travelers leapt out of the way. It's good to see you too, Mom. Izuku patted her on the back with his left arm. I'm fine now. But your arm, she wailed, staring at his cast. Next to him, All Might cleared his throat. Recovery girl agreed to heal young Midoriya. I can vouch for her services. She took care of my own injuries. If you don't mind, I'll take him to see her right now. Inko wiped her eyes. Then I'll make you a feast when you get home. She kissed Izuku's forehead. You can eat all your favorite dishes for the next week. I'll buy you any hero merchandise you want. She bowed to All Might. Thank you for rescuing my son. All Might laughed. In truth, he'd already escaped by the time I arrived. He patted Izuku on the shoulder. You should be proud of him. You've raised a fine boy. I know, Inko beamed. As Izuku walked down the sidewalk toward his home, he flexed his right-hand fingers. What a remarkable quirk to heal him so quickly. He still had a scar on his forearm. The healing had left him lightheaded and hungry. He was eager for the katsudon dinner his mother had promised him. His phone beeped. Glancing down, he saw a text from Rody Soul. Hi to my brother in Japan. Send me lots of pictures when you start at UA. I plan to use them for the fan blog I've created for you. I'm counting on you to become #1 hero so that my book will be a bestseller. Also, my little sister drew a costume for you. It sucks, but you have to tell her it's adorable, because that's the brother thing to do. Resistance is futile. You're one of the family now. Izuku chuckled as he typed his reply. Deku? Katsuki ran down the sidewalk toward him. The shitty hag was telling me you'd been kidnapped or some other fucking nonsense. I told her you had to be fine, of course. Izuku stopped and met Katsuki's eyes. Yes, I was kidnapped by Humarise. No thanks to whoever signed me up for their mailing list. To his surprise, Katsuki flinched and lowered his gaze. It seemed uncharacteristic, but perhaps a cult abduction was enough to scare even Katsuki. Involvement in that mess wouldn't look great on his precious, unblemished middle school record. Izuku smiled brightly. Whoever did that could certainly get into a lot of trouble. It might be a deal-breaker for hero schools. Unless a kind-hearted soul chose not to turn them in. Just as Katsuki was starting to look relieved, Izuku added, in exchange for a talking All Might Christmas Edition figurine to replace his own, which was cruelly set on fire in kindergarten. Katsuki recoiled. But that's my favorite. You can't still be holding a grudge about something that happened 10 years ago. Good point. Merely getting you to replace my own destroyed property isn't proper compensation. Izuku stared the other boy down. I'll drop by tomorrow to take my pick of your All Might collection. Don't even think about trying to hide the good stuff. I know what you have. You've bragged about it. Katsuki whimpered. His mind clearly unable to withstand the horror, he shied away from the topic. But how did you get home? Did the heroes rescue you? In a cheerful voice, Izuku said, No, I escaped on my own and exposed their terrorism plans to the authority. I just left UA, where All Might and Eraserhead were fighting over who could recommend me. But Nezu said that anyone who took down a worldwide cult got automatic admission to UA, no recommendation or exam necessary. Katsuki's mouth puckered like a fish. He stuttered. Izuku grinned. Boy, had that ever been satisfying. See you at UA, Kachan. Assuming you pass the exam, but I believe in you. He walked past. In a small voice, Katsuki said, I'm glad you're okay. What? Izuku whirled around, but Katsuki was already beating a rapid retreat as if more terrified of what he'd just said than all the villains in Japan. Izuku finished his text, then climbed the steps to his home. He didn't have his key. He had no idea what Humarise had done with his belongings after abducting him. Probably trashed them. A rare All Might keychain and 2 of his notebooks had been lost forever. He knocked on the door. To his shock, Hisashi Midoriya opened it. Bandages covered his face and he used a breathing device, the remnants of a villain attack years ago. He immediately hugged Izuku. Dad? Izuku gasped. He hadn't seen his father in person in over a year. Hisashi pulled his head to his chest and petted his curls. I'm glad that you're safe, Izuku. This incident has made me rethink what's important to me. I've requested a job transfer back to Japan. From now on, I'll spend more time at home. This was the best gift yet. Welcome home, Dad. Izuku sniffled into his father's shoulder. Hisashi stroked his back. Then he inhaled sharply, making his breathing device a rattle. He hissed, You have a quirk? Izuku nodded. Yeah, did Mom tell you? I have great news. I'm going to UA. Hisashi whispered, This feels familiar. Almost like... His head lolled backward, then he collapsed in a faint. Izuku grabbed his father before he hit the floor. His poor dad's old injuries must be acting up. He shouted, Mom! Dad just passed out! End of Chapter 10. Omake Time. Omake. The reunion from All for One's point of view. Hisashi. I feel a quirk inside my son as I'm hugging him. Is he a late bloomer? Let me take a look at it. Just a quick peek, and then I'll probably give it back. Huh? Why can't I touch his quirk? Why does this feel so very familiar? Wait a moment. Vestige Yoichi. Welp, this was not the sight I wanted to greet my eyes the first time I woke up. I see your elapsed time between discovering your son has a quirk and then trying to steal it was, check stopwatch, 2 seconds. Hisashi, screaming. Yoichi, that's 1 second longer than it would have been with anyone else, but there will be no quirk stealing on my watch. Bitch slaps his brother out of Izuku's mind so hard Hisashi ends up unconscious. If I close my eyes for another 100 years, maybe when I wake up, Big Brother will be gone. At the end of the story, Hisashi detected one for all. After he woke up, Hisashi tried to persuade his son to trade quirks. But even without understanding what was going on, Izuku refused to part with the ultimate piece of All Might merchandise, his quirk. I like to imagine that after this, Yoichi aggressively slept through canon, so Second had to show Izuku the vault instead. Yoichi finally woke up during the Paranormal Liberation War arc to see his big brother trying to steal One for All yet again. Yoichi immediately tried to go back to sleep, but the other vestiges surrounded him and kicked him awake. Omake, angry Pomeranian Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki, before Izuku gets kidnapped. I don't care about that useless, worthless Deku. Katsuki, after Izuku goes missing. Where are you, Deku? Omake, he'll never live it down. Katsuki, complains about literally anything related to Izuku. Izuku. Oh yeah? Well, at least I never sold you out to an evil cult. Got anything else to say? No, I didn't think so. Katsuki. I'm being forced to have character development early, and I don't like it. Omake. What are the dads' feelings on Izuku rescuing himself? All Might. I'm so proud of my successor. Aizawa. That kid is going to be in my class even if I have to blackmail Nezu. All for One. But I wanted my son to adore and admire me after I rescued him. I feel so cheated. Now he's running around free, it will be much harder to stuff him into a bank vault. Also, I missed my chance to steal Fluct Turn's quirk. This bromance road trip was 1 out of 10, and it only gets 1 point because I'm besties with Aizawa now. Aizawa. You most certainly are not. All Might. That's right, Aizawa is my new best friend. Aizawa. Is this one of those philosophical dilemmas where I have to choose between 2 fates worse than death? Poor Aizawa thinks he's done with both of them when he returns to his normal teaching job. Just wait until he finds out about All Might's new job at UA. Then All for One shows up at a parent-teacher conference. Omake, Golden Child. Quirk Apprehension Test Arc. Aizawa. Today I will expel one of you. Except for Midoriya, who is exempt from expulsion on account of saving his teacher from a fanatical cult. Denki. It's very unfair for you to pick favorites. Also, how can I become your favorite? Aizawa. When you sacrifice yourself to rescue me from kidnapping, quirk loss, and torture at the hands of evil cultists, then you too will receive carte blanche to do whatever you want in my class. In fact, forget the test. Instead, I'm going to tell you all about how Midoriya, the prime example of future heroism, single-handedly took down Humarise and prevented a major terrorism incident. Izuku, blushing. But you already told the story twice. Denki. Shh, I want to listen to the story a 3rd time rather than risk being possibly expelled. Battle Trial Arc. Izuku. Oopsie, I destroyed a building. Aizawa. That's fine. I know that any building you destroyed needed to be taken down, just like how Humarise deserved to be taken down. Bakugo. Why did you make Midoriya destroy a building? Later. Recovery Girl. Why do you keep breaking bones? This is unacceptable. Aizawa. Unacceptable that you're blaming our students for getting injured. Clearly this represents a failure on the part of UA to provide Midoriya with proper training. Recovery Girl. Not only will you heal him without complaint, I demand that you give him a lollipop. Sports Festival Arc. Nezu. Aizawa, may I have a moment? Some concerns have been raised about the fairness of the tactics used by your favorite so far in the competition. Aizawa. Favorite? What favorite? I don't have a favorite. Also, the gas that Midoriya used was produced and approved by the support department. It's within the rules. Nezu. Despite your lack of favorite, you somehow immediately knew who I was talking about. I respect Midoriya's ingenuity, but the festival is a show as much as a competition. It isn't as entertaining if Midoriya and Hatsume keep gassing all their competitors. Aizawa. I see. I'll have a talk with them. Meanwhile, Izuku. 9/10 of the students are asleep already. Great teamwork, Hatsume. If I ever get abducted by a cult again, you're the person I'd want to be kidnapped with. May. Would a cult kidnapping mean access to cool babies? Izuku. Last time there were 2 bombs each able to wipe out an entire city. May. Ooh. Aizawa. Hey, I'm glad I found you two. Remember when I told you that the explosives were a step too far? It turns out that Nezu wants more excitement. Go wild. Versus Hero Killer Arc. Aizawa. Ida, I'm disappointed in you. Chief of Police Tsuragame. Whoa, what about the other 2 students who committed vigilantism? Aizawa. Midoriya was continuing his streak of heroically saving people from horrible situations while the police do nothing, like that time he saved me from being kidnapped by a cult, while you and your officers are being completely fucking useless. Elsewhere. All for One. Bestie, I'm so touched by how you always stand up for my son. Aizawa. I just felt a chill down my spine like a potato head was talking about me. I don't understand why he keeps acting more friendly each time we see each other. I haven't done anything to win brownie points with a villain. Omake, the alternate Stain incident. Tenya, I'll kill Stain to get revenge for my brother. Izuku. There are way better ways to take revenge than killing someone. You can break them mentally, then leave them to rot in jail with nothing but their regrets and the knowledge that you tricked them into destroying their own dreams. But if you have your heart set on murder, I know an archer who still semi-worships me even after her deprogramming. Omake, if All for One knew about the mailing list. Izuku. Weird. Katsuki didn't show up for his first day at UA. Hisashi. Apparently I'm not allowed to kill him because this fic doesn't have a major character death warning. So I signed him up for the Metahuman Liberation Army's mailing list. Izuku. Dad! Hisashi. And then I tied him up and dropped him off with them personally. Omake. All Might adopts All for One's son, and also a bonus Rhodey soul. All Might. I see one boy with curly hair, a feral glint in his eye, and an affinity for quirks. But since that's my successor, All for One's son must be this other kid who looks absolutely nothing like him. Rhodey. Isn't All for One the slogan of the 3 Musketeers? All Might. Don't worry your cute innocent little head about it. I guess you take after your other father, young Rhodey. Rhodey. I only have the one father. He's a single dad. All Might. That's the spirit. You don't need another father in your life, trust me. Unless it's me. Rhodey. I'm confused. Are you hitting on my dad? All Might. I'll step in to mentor you and suppress any latent evil overlord tendencies with kindness and positivity. I'm willing to pay for your piloting school to keep your financial desperation from pushing you into a life of crime, leading to you later becoming the scourge of Europe. Rhodey. Thank you, new honorary dad. You seem unhinged, but you're offering me money, and that's all that matters. Later. All Might. I've been getting along wonderfully with the entire Soul family. Dr. Soul is lovely, except for his bad taste in men. Rhodey. Did my dad reject All Might? Bummer, I wanted a rich stepdad. Omake, the distant future. All Might. Rhodey Soul is All for One's son. Aizawa. Since you're All for One's arch-nemesis and you know what his face looked like before he got potatoed, I will assume you know what you're talking about and take your word for it. Much later, after All for One shows up at Izuku's parent-teacher conference. Aizawa. All Might, I am never having any expectations of you ever again. Omake, chilly reception. Hisashi. Honey, I'm home. Inko. Oh look, my husband finally showed up after our son got rescued. Too late to do anything to help. Hisashi. This is unfair. I've been trying to rescue Izuku this whole time. I had to team up with my arch-nemesis for the rescue mission. If you're going to be angry at me, it should be for the million other wrongdoings I actually committed. Omake, retirement. All Might. Strange, I was certain there would be massive societal upheaval after I was forced into early retirement, but there was a huge lull in crime at the exact time I left the hero scene. Odd. I wonder why All for One hasn't taken advantage of my absence. Izuku. On a completely unrelated note, I'm so happy that my dad took a leave of absence from work for health reasons. It's great to have him back home. All Might. I'd love to meet your father sometime. It's a shame I keep missing him whenever I visit. Izuku. For some strange reason, his health problems always start acting up whenever you come over. He says he's allergic to your hairspray, but I think he's joking. Omake, a beautiful new friendship. Botan. Thank you for inviting me over, Inko. Inko. It's my pleasure. I'll make some tea. How is your daughter doing? Botan. She's up for parole in a few weeks. I'm very grateful to All Might for preparing an insanity defense and ensuring that she ended up in a good hospital with specialists in brainwashing deprogramming. Izuku's visits have been helping her too. Inko. Izuku told me that she seems to have replaced him as the new person to obey after Humarise collapsed, since she thinks it's divine will that he took Humarise down. Botan. The doctors are keeping an eye on the situation. They think it will be easier to gradually shift her mind than to expect her to become independent and think for herself all at once. But enough about me. How are you doing? Inko. I'm great. My husband has been stepping up since his return home. He's pulling out all the stops. The expensive presents are nothing new. I'm far more pleased that he's become more involved in Izuku's life. I think he's truly changed. Botan. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you this, but I think I just need to drop the bombshell. I saw your husband at the Humarise compound a couple times. I'm not sure what he was doing there or the depths of his involvement. I won't tell anyone else to protect you and Izuku, but I thought you had the right to know. I'm sorry. Inko. And he's back to sleeping on the couch with the lumpy All Might pillow. Sorry for exposing my family drama and poor life choices to you. Botan. There. I joined a horrible cult shortly after my daughter was born, and she only recently stopped working as an assassin for them. I don't think I have any grounds to criticize your life choices. Which is worse, marrying All for One or joining a cult? I'm going with joining a cult, but only because All for One hasn't vaulted his family in this AU. Yet. Omake. At the USJ. Tomura. I'm here to play video games and kill All Might, and I'm all out of video games. Hey look, it's Sensei's best friend. Aizawa. I'm not his friend. Tomura. Winks. Got it, won't say anything in front of these heroes. Aizawa. Goes feral and beats down Tomura before All Might even arrives. Later. Dr. Garaki. I'm here to fight you for the title of Sensei's best friend. Aizawa. I see you want to die too. This scene is censored for brutal murder. Poor Tomura, he only wanted to get his Eraserhead merchandise signed. Just wait until Kurogiri shows up. The real Dark Horse villain candidate for Aizawa's best friend. Omake. The Great Kamino Ward Showdown. This omake has been rendered into comic form by a commission from the exceptional artist Aria Rinko, a link to which can be found in the notes. Text for this comic reads, At Kamino, the greatest villain and the greatest hero lock eyes. There is a palpable tension in the air. The fate of Japan hangs in the balance of this fight. All for One. I adopted Nana Shimura's grandson as my successor. All Might. Oh yeah? Well, I've become a mentor to your son. He adores me. All for One. Yes, I know. All Might. Rody Soul is a wonderful boy. He's nothing like you. All for One. Who the fuck is Rody Soul? After All for One runs away from Kamino in a state of confusion. All for One. Izuku, I'm home from my business trip. A business trip that was totally for legitimate business and no other reason. No connection at all to that majestic masked villain on the news. Do you know a boy named Rody Soul? Izuku. Yeah, Dad. Rody is my brother who lives in Europe. All for One. Do I need to run a DNA test on this kid? Author's notes. That's how Izuku defeated All for One, by giving him a heart attack. Just kidding, Dr. Garaki was on hand to revive him after Izuku dropped the brother bombshell. Obviously, Rody isn't All for One's son in this fic, but the identity confusion sure does fit ironically with my story, A Tale of Two Psychopaths. In that AU, All for One ran the DNA test and Rody was actually his son. He was baffled as to how All Might figured this out before him. And All Might stole both his sons. What a disgraceful way for a hero to behave. But in this AU, Rody's soul is off chilling in Europe, living his best life with no idea that an increasing number of Japanese heroes think that his father is All for One because Toshinori spilled to Gran Torino, Sir Night-Eye, and Nezu. Rody doesn't even know what an All for One is. All for One is 99% certain that Rody is not his son, but All Might so completely and utterly believes it that a 1% doubt creeps in. Izuku continues to innocently act like his dad should know about his brother. Obviously, Izuku doesn't know that Hisashi is All for One, or he wouldn't do such a horrible thing to Rody. Even Nezu seems convinced. Nezu is just fucking with everyone. The report on Rody that Nezu sent All Might was censored for the lols to avoid any contradicting evidence about his parentage. Nezu has a bet with himself about how long it will take All Might to notice who fathered his successor. By this point, All for One starts staying up late at night trying to remember if he ever had a one-night stand with a woman with a sentient bird quirk in Europe. But he's had a lot of one-night stands over the years. He's always been careful about protection, but no protection is perfect. He was in Europe around the right time. His certainty level drops to 98%. All for One pours countless millions and billions of yen trying to get a DNA sample from Rody's soul. But Rody's escape artist skills are top-notch. All for One knows that this boy can't possibly be his son. He just wants to lay that last bit of doubt in his mind to rest. But the kid is too good at running away. He dodges attempts he doesn't even know about with supernatural instinct. Kinda like how All for One's younger brother was good at running away. Nope, not possible. He's 97% certain of it. This chase has consumed so much energy that All for One's plans in Japan fell by the wayside. He's worked himself into such a frenzy that when he finally catches Rody, he decides he damn well didn't go to all this trouble without getting something out of it and kidnaps him. And that's how Izuku found out that his father was All for One, when Hisashi showed up at home with a tied-up Rody tucked under his arm, telling Izuku that he brought him a friend to keep him company in the bank vault. Because that makes perfect sense to a villain who's been 2 weeks without sleep. He's decided to vault Izuku early because he knows full well that his own flesh and blood would be even harder to catch, and he never, ever wants to go through another chase like this again. The best part of this is how All Might can continue to mix up which kid got kidnapped because he's All for One's son, and which kid is a bonus extra nabbed only because he's friends with the aforementioned son. Even Nezu starts to get confused because he never expected All for One to actually kidnap Rody. Does this mean... No, it can't be. Nezu is 99% certain of it. The immutable law of this AU is that at any given time, someone must believe that Rody's soul is All for One's son. As soon as Nezu realizes he was overthinking it, the Hero Public Safety Commission gets wind of All for One's secret son and promptly kidnaps Rody's soul, thus leading to the following situation. HPSC President: From now on, you will remove and give quirks according to our orders. With your power, we'll rule Japan from the shadows. Rody: Currently strapped to a creepy chair in Tartarus. My quirk is a small pink bird. HPSC President: Yes, that's the first quirk you ever stole. Rody: Why will no one believe me that I'm not related to that potato head? My dad has much higher standards. He even turned down All Might. Izuku: Rody, I'm here to rescue you. Since I can't let you suffer any longer, I have a confession to make. I'm All for One's son. HPSC President: Nice try. We know you're lying in order to protect your friend. Rody: You gave it your best shot, Izuku. Just get me out of this damn chair. As soon as I get back to my home country, I'm going to sue the Hero Public Safety Commission for wrongful imprisonment until I own Tartarus. Podficcer's notes. This concludes the main section of Fear No Evil. There's still one more chapter which is an alternate ending starting from chapter 3. I love that in this fic, the first thing that Hisashi does when he meets his son again is try to steal his quirk. Like, not even 5 minutes later, he's like, ooh, sticky fingers. Thank you so much for joining me on this story. If you've enjoyed this fic as much as I have, please take this time to let Katydid know. If you've enjoyed my podfic, please let me know. Thanks for joining.